Looking for the perfect hidden gem for your next night out? Welcome to Almost on the Lake, where the food is delicious. The service is top-notch. And the atmosphere feels like home. Family owned and locally loved. Come see why everyone is talking about Almost on the Lake.
Nestled in the heart of historic downtown Wilkesboro, the 1915 offers a wedding experience like no other. Once a federal courthouse and post office, the 1915 combines rich history with timeless charm. From intimate gatherings to full-day rentals, we provide the perfect backdrop for your most cherished moments. With indoor and outdoor options, bridal and groom suites, every detail is crafted just for you. Make your wedding unforgettable at the 1915, Wilkesboro's historic wedding venue, where your story begins.
Closed captions for this episode of Life in Wilkes is brought to you by Deal Insurance Agency in Wilkesboro, an award-winning, experienced, family-owned and operated agency with service and coverage that goes above and beyond expectations. Join us on a captivating journey as we explore the charm, history, and vibrant culture of Wilkes County. Discover the hidden gems, inspiring stories, and remarkable people that make Wilkes a place worth knowing and celebrating. Join us now and experience the unique essence of Life in Wilkes.
Good morning, Ken. How are you?
I'm doing great, Carl. Good to see you today.
It's good to see you. It's time for our gathering. You were here in 2024. We talked about what you do in Wilkesboro as a town manager. And I think we said we'd get together in 2025 and talk about what the successes were in the first part of the year and what you have coming up. We'll do that first, but at the end, I want us to talk about government structure and the way it works, from your standpoint, and as broad as you can go with that, just so that folks have an understanding, because I think in general, there's not a clear understanding on how things get passed and what the mayor can do or you can do or the council can do, and those are important things. Do you get those questions often?
There's not been a lot of civics education taught in our area, it doesn't feel like. So, yeah, I get plenty of questions about who does this or who does that, whether it's our jurisdiction or somebody else's. But, yeah, so I could see where we need to work on some education there.
All right, good. Let's do that in a minute, but let's talk about the highlights of Wilkesboro now, because all sorts of things are going on. Saturday, I had a friend visit from Charlotte. We went out and had lunch almost on the lake. Then we went out and had a 3 or 4 mile walk after lunch.
Great.
Right on the lake, and it was absolutely beautiful. And that's something that a lot of people do when they come to Wilkesboro, right?
Oh, yeah.
So let's talk about those highlights.
Yeah, we got a lot of good outdoor activities here, and of course, the Scott Reservoir is one of our feature points, and great hiking trails there. Of course, you can also bike on those trails, and then fishing, water activities. It's just a great asset for our community.
Well, the biking trails there, to just say biking, that'd be a bit of an understatement, right?
Oh, certainly.
Because they are
world-class mountain biking trails, yes. I think one of them has an epic trail status, which means it's like top 10 in the country.
Wow,
so, yeah,
that's
great
impressive.
opportunities for those bikers. But as well, plenty of areas for the beginners, too.
Mm-hmm. All right, so you've got all that going on at the lake. And then when we come in town, you've got that great park now at Cub Creek that's pretty darn impressive. Talk about that.
We just keep expanding there. We have a trail builder in there right now doing more trail work, and we've added a couple more miles of trails, some jump lines for those that are a little braver than me, and then some more routine trails for those that maybe at my skill level.
Right.
So excited about that. But at the park just a couple of weeks ago, we had a big grand opening, a celebration of the newest features there, which is our inclusive playground, the Shelton Play Park. And so that was a great opportunity to unveil that to the public. It's been open 7-8 months, but we haven't had a chance to bring everybody together for a celebration. So that was a nice day.
You've been getting great reviews on that already, though, right?
Oh, we have, yeah. Right. A lot of opportunity for people to come out, and the place is busy even when it's hot and, oppressive sometimes.
You've got that mister there.
They have misters to cool them down. We have access to the creek system right there to go play in. I know at our celebration there were 20, 30 kids in the creek playing, getting cooled off and having a big time, and others out, like you say, under the misters, and then just playing on all the different activities. We really wanted to have that day to kind of a coming out party for the community to see what was there, and just a chance to recognize some of our donors that made the event possible.
And that's awfully important, because those partnerships, those collaborations, without those, a lot of things would take a lot longer to make happen, wouldn't it?
The one thing about local government is we have to scrape to get our dollars. And so you have to go find sources, and we go after grants, and we try to utilize our own force account labor to get work done. But at the end, you need other dollars. Private dollars come into play. And in this community, we've been very generous with certain people who give some dollars for us to help make that park a reality.
Nice. So share some of the feedback that you got while you were there, and even over the past few months, feedback that you've gotten from parents or grandparents, people that have gone there and enjoyed themselves or taken the kids there.
Oh, I get a lot of that. Matter of fact, interesting to me in my world, I got an email from a young lady who is a rec director in kind of the Piedmont area of the state. And she was up here for Merle Fest, but needed something to do to wear her children out. And we all know how that can be at times, right? So she found the park and then found the new playground, and was so impressed with it, she sent me a note on that following Monday saying she couldn't believe the wonderful facility we have and how fun it was. And the kids, she had to pull them away to get them out of there, which is kind of about the best attribute you can have, is somebody says,
absolutely.
I have to drag my kids out, and they must be having a good time.
Right. And I think the grounds themselves are unique with that material that they're made out of.
Oh, yeah.
And so the kids are not getting dirty. They're not the things that you would normally find in a playground. It seems to be a bit safer than that, right?
It is, and of course, it is an inclusive park for those that are healthy or those that may have some type of infirmity, and because of that, we have to pay a little more attention to some of the surface treatment. So the what we used was a treatment that has like a rubber compound in it, so you got a little bounce feature to it to help for when the kids fall, but it also has gives it the appearance in some places of grass because it's green, and then we have some other colors in there to kind of break it up. But it works really well. Our crews built everything underneath that material, and then we brought a team in to actually lay that material down. But hopefully it has a long lifespan. That's important as well. But it does make it safer for people, and it's eye-popping.
So you've got this new park. It is a water feature unto itself because of the misters right there beside the Cub Creek. And then at the Heritage Museum, you have a water feature there that's also incredibly popular. Talk about that.
Yeah, the splash pad on Main Street. And of course, that splash pad is a hit. The day we turn it on and people see water coming out of it, there's kids there.
Right.
That day, always so. And every day from then on until we shut it off in late October when it gets a little cool. But it's been a great add-on to our downtown. And for a small downtown who's always trying to find a way to bring people in, it's been a home run. As families come in there, the kids play, the parents sit out around a lot of nice benches and the shade and stuff. But they're there. It's an opportunity then to maybe run across the street and get an ice cream cone or some other type of thing. So it's helped our shoppers in our shopping district in the downtown put a little bit more activity in. So it's been a positive benefit for the whole community and for the museum itself, because it brings other visitors there as well.
As you look back at when you started as a town manager in Wilkesboro, and you know the temperature of everything at that point, and how people would interact with the town itself. And with each one of these things that has been done to make Wilkesboro more of a gathering place, talk about how that's impacted the community and even the county and visitors from all over.
Well, everybody wants a thriving downtown, but urban sprawl has taken that away in community after community across the country. And then it's our job to try to bring that back, because in your community itself, people say, I don't like that downtown. And, you got empty storefronts. Why don't we have things to do? And so that's the way it was when I came here many years ago.
Right.
A lot of empty storefronts and not a lot of activity on Main Street. And so we're so excited to find that we've completely flipped that to activity on Main Street during the day and in the evening as well, with our Community Commons Park, where we have some of those events and so forth. So bringing people to the downtown, I think, is it brings community, because people have a place to gather, not just a strip mall where you run into a store and back out and you never talk to anybody. So a lot of positives, I think, in our community, and it's just timing has allowed it to get to where it's at.
What were all the components that had to come together to make that happen? I mean, I'm sure you brought great ideas, but this looks like projects that many people would have had their hands on, right?
Certainly were, and the time frame. It's not like the private sector. Government's slow and methodical, and it's there for a purpose that way. We're the stewards of the public purse. And we have limited resources, right? So we got to work our way through that. But quite honestly, our downtown reinvigoration that we've had has come out from a community-driven process. And so it started with a very small grant from the state to do a kind of a needs assessment, a community gathering. We brought leaders in, we picked them, and then made it available for others to come. Probably a group of 20 plus. It was our Main Street community or committee that we call them, and they got to work, and they come up with a farmer's market. You hear a lot about that. People put a farmer's market in. So they created this little farmer's market. We put it in a parking lot of downtown, and people enjoyed it. Then let's put a little music in here.
Right.
People enjoyed that. Then we built a gazebo and made it a permanent fixture and had music every Friday and Saturday throughout the summer to feed into the farmers market activities that they were doing. And it got to the point where we said, hey, this can work. Maybe we ought to actually take the parking lot and make it an event space. Continued the process, and so several years later, we were able to make that happen, and now you have a permanent stage there, and it's event space that's being used year-round.
Now you have a whole pavilion.
Yeah, that's it. We got a pavilion. It's used for many different things. There's been weddings on it.
Right.
There's been, class reunions, certainly many concerts, special events. It's very exciting to see all the activities that go on there. Some are sponsored by the town, but many of them are private events that have grown, which is great for us, because the government can't do it all.
Sure.
We need that private interaction. So it's been a great add-on to us.
So there's a sponsor that sponsors the pavilion. So how was that a hard sell, or was that something that they're like, yeah, this makes a lot of sense? How was that?
We were nervous because we needed some private monies
Right.
to make that project work, because we just couldn't do it all ourselves. The city council was pretty clear they didn't want their tax dollars to go into it. We had to find other means, and so we were able to get some grants, but still had some holes in the budget. And went to several of our larger corporations in the community, and a couple of them who are more in tune to the community jumped in and said, yeah, we need to be a part of that.
Right.
very exciting. So Wilkes Communications sponsored the pavilion. They're now River Street Production,
Right.
and will be changing their name soon. And then Carolina West sponsored the whole site. So it's the Carolina West Community Commons is their name. So between those two locally grown companies who saw the value in investing back in the community, that got us over the hump to make those projects a reality.
Wow. Are you surprised at all about that happening? So here are two companies, how many ever companies that are growing, they've got success, they pretty much have their marketing figured out, right? They're doing all of that. But this very community-based product, there would be a lot of people coming, but in the beginning you never know. So how important do you feel that they felt that was, and now that it's been going for a while, what's the feedback that you've gotten?
Certainly. Well, those two organizations are community-based organizations, and they both have the attitude that they need to give back. And so that's made a big difference for us. I think it's been a positive thing for them. It's certainly been positive for us. And we are but we'll be coming up on our anniversary of our contract soon. And it looks to be like we all want to continue to work together, which is great. So I think both sides have seen a lot of value from this opportunity. I would have never thought in a small town that we could have done something like this, naming rights. You see it, you go to Charlotte and you got a Bank of America Stadium, right? Well, that's a little bit different atmosphere than us, and certainly in the dollars that were probably moved back around. But they do that to be seen and to show that you're giving back in your community. And I think that's the same that these sponsors in Wilkesboro felt like, hey, we need to give back to our community. And what better way to do it than something that so many of our community are already participating in. I think the biggest thing is they had to have a leap of faith that when we got these things open, that the crowds would come. And they did come, and they come not just from Wilkesboro; they come from all over. We have a internet downtown, and you got to put your zip code in to get on the internet. So we use that to find out where you come from. And we got shows. We'll have people come across the state, from Wilmington to come up and see this certain band or whatever. Because we do a lot of the the tribute bands. And so everybody's got a tribute band or a band that they love and brings back their memories from their past. And so, you have a certain tribute band, it just draws from all over. And it's been very good to see that. And then now that we're at Shelton Play Park and Mr. Shelton saw the same value, it's continuing on. So I think it's an important way for local governments to maybe get over the hump for some needed projects is to find some of your leaders in your community who want to give back, be it individually or a corporation.
Ken, when you look at the growth of the area, so these amenities, I think from your zip code database that people are tapping into, and you see where people are coming from, some of those people that don't live within this county or adjoining county, some of those people, based upon the experience that they've had, they might want to move here. Have you seen any of that happening yet?
Oh, it has happened. Okay. It has happened, and actually, we've in the downtown, we've built some homes down there. We've had a dozen or so townhomes built in. Those things sold basically as soon as they were going up. But just as a certain examples, down the street there was a home. We need to do a little work at this home around the home on the edge of it because we were doing some road work, and I called the family up and asked them about it, and they said, "Sure, we'll come meet with you." And I said, "Well, where do you live?" And they said, "Well, we haven't moved to the home yet." Said, "We're still up near the Parkway." And it was a couple in their low 70s, early 70s. And I said, "Well, why'd you move to Wilkesboro?" And they said, "We moved here for your downtown.
Wow.
We wanted to be a part of that." They said, "We want to be able to walk out Friday night, walk down to your events, and then go into a restaurant and have dinner."
How'd that make you feel when you heard
it was
that?
great because that's exactly what we've been trying to do, right? The thing is, it just takes time. Now we got to work on that and build on it, right? Make it better and continue. You can't sit on your laurels. You got to keep going. And
do you think the foundation is there now to where that we can say, okay, We've got a strong foundation. We know it attracts people. So we just have to keep moving forward.
I think it's there, and I think people have seen it. Our local leaders have seen it, and so we are going to move forward. It's not that we need to. We know we have to. And we have more plans. We have a second phase of a downtown revitalization, kind of feeds off the first phase.
When does that start?
It's within the next 2 or 3 years. There's been a lot of financial strain lately in the last few years with coming out of COVID and inflationary factors kind of slowed down some of these projects. But they haven't been lost, and we keep the dust off them to make sure that we're still thinking about what's next.
So just looking at the future, forecasting when the moment is right, what are some of the attributes of that second phase?
So the first phase did streetscape work on one side of the road, but didn't really do it on the other. So we got to go to the other side and finish the streetscape work there. And then that involves bringing the power lines down, which sounds like a monumental feat, but we've already got agreement with Duke Power to do that. So that's kind of the easier part of this. You got to have a little money raised. And then we want to take that, when we go to the second side of the road, is incorporate the park system that we're doing so much work in. So you'll find that we'll create a new way to enter the park, probably a greenway that travels from Main Street to the park using a softer slope than the main road that takes you to the park now. So it makes it easier for people to walk in and out, because we want to make it as pedestrian friendly as possible. But we want to give people access, if they're in the downtown, to walk on a little trail and pop into that 200 plus acres of Cub Creek Park that we have.
So user friendly.
Yeah, that's it.
User friendly, pleasant sights.
You got to make it easy for people.
Sure.
So
easy and pleasant.
Yes.
Wow. When you think about all these things that have happened during your tenure so far and where it's going in the future, has your degree of optimism changed, say, compared to 10 years ago? I know you're a long-term planner, so you were literally planning things then that are just now happening now, I imagine, right? That's
the way it is. You work your whole career for projects to get done sometimes, but that's good. But yeah, I've got a lot of optimism because I think people are seem to be coming back to home base, right? We may not be traveling as far. It might be finances. It might be just uncertainties that are going on around the world, and so we're seeing more people come to our community to spend time here, whether that's an outcome of the work we've done or a coincidence. We still want to capitalize on that and grow it, but I'm very excited about the future of Wilkesboro itself and our whole Wilkes County. A lot of good things. Our neighboring town of North Wilkesboro's got some great plans on the horizon as well, and it's the high tide raises all ships, right?
That's right.
So we're very excited about that.
And you have a good relationship with North Wilkesboro and the county, right?
Oh, certainly. We got to do it together. I mean, we cannot do this by ourselves. It takes all of us to make this community strong and healthy moving forward, because the dynamics of the communities always are changing as people come and go. Companies come and go, and we got to need to be in the front of that to make sure that our assets are there and prepared for new growth and new opportunity.
What are you most pleased with that was accomplished in 2024?
Well, I'm really excited we got past that park so we can move to other things. But throughout the last year, we've been working on both a water and sewer project, a water intake and a sewer rehabilitation project. The water intake is probably the biggest thing that got done. We haven't built it yet, but the agreements are in place. And so the two towns try to work together, but there's always animosity when you have two competing entities close by. And I've been here 26 years trying to get a new water intake for the town of Wilkesboro, and we could never make it work for whatever reason. And we worked in a partnership with our friends across the river, North Wilkesboro, and that project imploded. We went back on our own, and then they come back and say, hey, we got to have an intake. Is there another way to work together? And then through some process and some planning, we found a way to build two intakes right beside each other that'll serve both towns and serve the entire county, save money, and be less less detrimental to properties that may be in a new watershed, because we're not going to create any new watershed property by doing this, which helps in development purposes. So real excited that we're all come to agreement. We have contracts in place, and we hope to bid those projects out in the next couple of months. And so it's sometimes very difficult to work with your neighbors, but when you get through it, it really pays off. And this will really pay off for our community. Without water and sewer, communities die. And so us setting up water for the next generation is very important for
Talk about that for a moment, because if water and sewer, if you live in town, you've had water and sewer for all these years. And why would a town die if it did not, or grow if it did not enhance its water and sewer capacities?
At the end of the day, we all have to have water, right? And we have to have enough capacity to service the needs of the communities around us. And so we're blessed to live on as the first group that takes water out of the Yadkin River. But if you don't keep up with your assets, people will move, because if things get broken, if you don't have quality water or quality sewer, you're not good for the environment. You may be giving people water that may not be the most healthy for them. So we have to make sure that what gets out that tap, that people have confidence to drink, and that it's going to be around.
So you've got to be mindful of who's here, taking care of the system that's in place, and with the growing system, not only take care of people who live here, but then also all those that are moving here. Is there a percentage of, for example, you say, okay, we've got 60,000 people, whatever that number is, and we imagine that will grow by 30 or 40% over the next 20 years. So you have to plan for that now, right?
You do, and you also have to, plan for it on the industrial expansion side. So you're always recruiting new companies, and you want to make sure you have a capacity of water available. So if you get lucky and a community says, yes, I want to relocate there, that I can say, all right, you can't, and I have the necessary utilities to serve you. So if you use your utilities up and don't have any capacity left based just on natural growth of a community and don't plan for the future, then if you can't have new jobs to support the people living there, then you'll lose that. It's just a cycle that you have to go through. So you have to have water and sewer to make sure that all the other parts come together.
And with the idea of attracting more industry to the area, that's an important thing. So when Tyson's. Yeah. So when Tyson's increased their production, or announced an increase for their production, there was a need for more water then, I understand, right? So how did that process work? Did they call you, say, hey, Ken, we need some more water? I mean, it was more complicated than that, right?
Yeah, we work together every day because of the Tyson's flow of water. They use couple million gallons every day of the week with us. And so if they turn down the tap or turn up the tap, it changes our outlook very quickly. So we have to have a very close relationship about what's coming and what's needed for them. Of course, they're a little bit quicker to call if they're going to use more water. May not be quickest call if they're not going to use as much, right?
Sure.
But we have to, either way, have to have enough water sold to pay the bills to keep the projects going and everything. So they're an integral part of our process, and we work together in heavy planning all the time about what's the future of Wilkesboro and Tyson, and how can we make sure that both have what they need, right? I mean, I need to have enough cash revenue from making the water to pay our bills, and they need to make sure they've got water available to them at a cost-effective rate to make a profit, right?
Right. So it's that symbiotic relationship that's going on.
And it goes much deeper than that. I mean, because it was Holly Farms, right? It started here and growed here. The local connection here in now Tyson is still so strong, where we have partnerships in many other areas. I mean, they know they can call me if they have a problem inside the plant that takes a special type of equipment to do, and vice versa. If I need something made real quick, and I can get it fabricated and back out on my plant just as quickly. So it's an important relationship we have with a big industry like that. And
I think that's important to note and to celebrate, that they are a very significant customer for water, but then also people that they employ. It's important for the community, right?
It is. They employ a couple thousand people in this community, so so we want to keep them healthy and keep them growing here in Wilkes, and we're pretty happy where they're at. They did make some changes in the last year. Did pull back on some employee counts, but the changes in the plants made it much more profitable. And if you're making profit, that means you're probably going to stay around.
You're going to stay here, right?
Yeah.
They're building more of those updated houses now to raise their chickens in. So that's exciting. We had I don't know if you saw the shows we had with Gerald Langford when he came in and talked about all those years. And he was there when it was all
He's a wealth of information, and he knows all that history.
Yeah, that was fascinating to spend time with him. So Ken, let's shift a little bit and let's talk about the government structure that you have in Wilkesboro and how it works within the county. But let's talk about how it works, because I think sometimes we don't always know how it works. As you said, civics is not on the top of our tongue.
It doesn't. Somebody was telling me the other day, we were talking about it with some colleagues, and they said, yeah, my football coach taught my civics class. And I said, well, was he a regular teacher? I said, no, he was just a football coach.
Right.
So that's the, the push that was given out there for quite some time. And it's sad to say that, because we really need to understand our government better and how it works, what happens at the local level, what happens at the state level and the federal level. And thankfully at the local level, we don't have to deal with some of the state and federal politics that we see out there and the acrimony that goes on. And we hope that the people here in Wilkes realize, particularly in Wilkesboro and North Wilkesboro, our two cities, we're nonpartisan. We don't care your party. We just care that you're a citizen. Right. So if you live in our community, we're going to serve you and give you the same service no matter who you are. And I think that's the bedrock of what it takes first, is you have to treat every citizen, no matter where they live, what their zip code in your community is, what street they're on. They can expect the same service out of you. But then you have to know who provides the service, right?
That's right.
I might get a phone call complaining about the school board, and I said, well, that's not really my area. You got to call the schools, or something like that, or maybe something that the county does that we don't do, those type of things. So we always are trying to educate people, well, who's the responsible, who's the jurisdiction that handles that. But then the goal is to be front-facing to the citizens, where they see us, they see our face, they see our employees, and they know they can get things done. And so I think it feels better when you pay taxes on a local level, that you're getting a direct service back. Sometimes we don't necessarily see that direct service when we write our taxes to Uncle Sam, right?
Sure. So let's talk about the structure then in Wilkesboro and how it works, because you are the town manager, so you run things, right?
Yeah.
And then Del Isom currently is the mayor, right? So, and then you've got your council. Let's talk about those entities and what they do.
Yeah, so Wilkesboro is a city manager form of government, and what that means is it's driven by the statute of North Carolina. The state sets that if the town chooses that path to run, you can have other paths. That is the most prevalent path, where you have a mayor and a council, and that mayor and council hires a city manager to do the day-to-day duties of the town. So my job is to operate the city, hire and fire the employees, and implement the council's policies. So that means it's the town council's job to figure out the direction of the community. Where do we want to take this community? What do we want to do with the dollars we have? What kind of budget we want to put out? What special projects we want? Right. And once they set that, and they get feedback from me, but at the end of the day, they're the voters. They vote on it, and they're voting on it for their constituents, right? And then once they vote on it, then it's my job to implement it. Okay. So we do it through the budget process on a yearly basis. And so we just wrapped up a budget, and now I'll start the implementation of that budget in July.
So you just answered my next question, was how long are these cycles? And you just said it's annually, right?
The operating budget's annually. Now you'll have capital projects that take several years, and so they're kind of carved out in their own project until that wraps up. But yeah, every year we're resetting, and our city council generally does a full retreat every other year, and then a kind of a budget work session to kick them off every year, to try to make sure that they're in lock sync to what they want done, because your council needs to be together first, and they got to want to know where they want to go, and then once they know that, then they can help bring that to staff. And so we bring in facilitators to help us kind of work through that to make sure we all understand the goals and recommendations that we're going to use moving forward. And then we build a budget process to accommodate that.
So at that biannual retreat, right?
Yeah,
Or every 2 years, you get together, and you have council that's there. Mayor would be there, and then you and your staff would be there.
That's right.
Correct. So you're having are those ever heated conversations?
Not necessarily heated, but you know, we work real hard to try to get your point across, right? So that might get louder than other times. And we do biannual retreats. Many places do them every year. I have been blessed with a very consistent city council, so the leadership doesn't change as often. And then we're a smaller town. We only have so much capacity. So every other year has seemed to work for us to be able to set goals, objectives, and then work through them, and then come back together. And what we do is after every election, we'll have a retreat, and that kind of helps.
So some people would say, well, why do they need to have a retreat? They have meetings on a regular basis, but there is a reason for that. Why don't you speak to that?
So, you know, when we have our city council meetings, they're very process oriented, right? And you're in front of a camera and a mic,
right?
And so it can stifle creativity because you're not there for creativity. You're there for taking action on items that have been laid out in front of you. Whereas when we get together in a retreat setting, you don't have to worry about that stuff. And now it's just, hey, let's talk. Let's work our way into a mood of trying to figure out where we want to go as a group. So, you know, you do some things, some kind of warm-ups, like that, get you in the mood of thinking and planning. And then we start talking about aspirations and what would we love to see. Now, we might not be able to afford or do some of these things, but we want to know if we had everything that we wanted to do, all the dollars in the world, what would we do? And then from there, we work way back to what's realistic for our community.
And there may be steps that can
steps in between, and ultimately you might get to that point, right? Over time. I think this downtown revitalization is one of those. I don't know early on that I ever thought they could have got done what they did, but a little every year brought us to where we're at. And that's kind of how it is. Incremental change in local government is generally how it works.
Nice. So the council members, another reason that you can't do everything during council session, you've got your list, but then all of these people work. They have other jobs, so they're just showing up volunteering, right? Or they've been selected to do this, but it's still their time.
It's their time. It's out of their work day. Yeah, most of our council all still have day jobs, and so they're busy. And so we get together in the evenings. If a retreat generally costs them a work day.
Right.
Somebody's had to take a day off of work so we could spend that day to work together on a project. And so that's a lot of effort on their side. You know, they're elected by the people to hear the people, so their job is to bring back what they're hearing.
Right.
Sometimes one council member hears something different, right, than another council member. So we kind of work together to kind of make sure that we the best we can, that we have the pulse of the community at heart when we're making these decisions.
So you talked about being elected. So let's talk about that for a moment.
Yeah.
And why it's important for people to be involved with that process. Oftentimes, people might complain about this person or that person, but they didn't vote.
Right.
So I assume you've gotten those calls occasionally.
Quite regular.
So talk about how the system works, why it's important to be involved as a citizen if you expect to maybe affect.
If you want to affect change or opportunity, you have to be involved. And, just joke real quick here. So I also get the phone calls that said, I voted for you and I'm not voting for you next time.
Right.
And of course, I don't get voted into office. So
right.
That goes back to that civics course, right?
Exactly.
But anyway, yeah. So, the elected officials are voted in. And if you want change in a community, that's exactly how you do it, is you put in the people that you think will provide the services and the change that you're looking for. And And so I always will tell people the voting is the most important thing you can ever do. And if you sit on the sidelines, you really have no place to complain because you didn't take part in the system that we've created to give you your voice. And you also can come to our meetings and give voice. By law in North Carolina, we have to have a public comment period every month for the public to come in and speak their piece. And people don't use it. Not enough. They should. If you have things that are important enough to you that you think we should hear it, and maybe you don't feel like you have the ear of a councilman on your own, you can always come to those council meetings and just let everybody hear it at the same time.
And they're not intimidating processes.
Not a bit. Our board welcomes public comment.
Right.
We, matter of fact, the mayor will generally go around and ask at the end of a meeting if nobody's signed up, you sure you don't have anything to say while you're here? You took this effort to come to our meeting. Is there anything you have to say to us? We learn a lot from that too. So it's important for us to get that feedback. At the end of the day, elected officials, they have the group that they hang out with. We all have our people, right?
Right.
They have their people. Well, who do you think's going to influence them? Their people. So if you're a person that don't feel like you're there, you don't have that guy. First of all, they will take your phone call, so you can always call them.
Right.
And you can call City Hall, and we'll give you their number. We're glad to do that to make sure because they welcome the calls. But you got to, as a citizen, take some responsibility. That's what this nation was built on, was us as individuals taking responsibility to come together as groups to make decisions.
How many citizens live in Wilkesboro?
Probably a little over 3,700 and growing.
Okay. So of those 3,700 of that of the percentile that engage, you get calls from or show up in meetings. What is that percentage breakdown? You got 3,700 people. How many people actually participate?
Yeah, so you got to come down from there. So you got 3,700 people, but you may have, 2,200 eligible voters, right?
Okay.
Or eligible to be eligible, right?
Right,
We have to be 18 years old. You can't have a felony. There's a few, things that allow you to vote or not vote, but then you got to register. And so of that, I think we probably have maybe 70% of our eligible voters are registered. And then of them, another 70% vote. So we do have a pretty good voter turnout. But there's still a lot of people that haven't taken that effort to do that. And it really is important. And I would recommend anybody, if you want to affect change first, is go to the ballot box and vote and then come to a board meeting.
Is it your contingency that if people do that Wilkesboro, the county, the region, will be a better place?
I think so. I think the greater the voice, the better we'll do.
That's, I think, that's a great sentiment, but I think it means maybe even more than just voting. There is a sense of pride of voting, right?
That's
a
right.
sense of being part of the solution.
That's right. And not just there, you can be part of, you don't have to be on those elected boards. We have a half a dozen citizen boards that we struggle to get people to get on. I run ads constantly in the newspaper trying to get people on some of these boards because that's boots on the ground that helps direct and make policy that the city council then reviews and puts in motion.
Why don't people participate?
I think it's a nationwide volunteer problem. Our lives are so busy now. You can go to civic clubs now, the Kiwanis Club, the Rotary. You don't see the numbers that you saw 20, 25 years ago. And I think younger people, they struggle more both with work jobs that don't let them off and families that take a lot of your time. We want to have our kids in every sport and everything that we can, to have the greatest life in the world, and it takes away from these other things. So it pulls people away, but I would say we most of our committee meetings meet in the evening, but we have day committees too. And so I would think that for a lot of people, there's probably something that they could do in our town and feel like they're a part of the solution.
So how many committees have openings?
We have 6 or 7 committees, and generally we just filled all of our seats, so we only have probably 1 or 2 openings right now. Every July or June we reset them all. and we have to work, but we still have openings right now. And there's an ad in the paper. All you have to do is go to our website. There's a little link there, fill out an application, and we will call you, because we want community support. So what we really try to do is have a list of people ready for when an opening comes forward.
Right.
So that's the best way. So if somebody has any interest, they should go to our site, see some of the committees, read a little definition about them, and put their name in the hat. And when the time comes, we'll have somebody to talk to.
Right. And that is a way to be involved.
It is a way.
It doesn't cost anything but your time. And the return on that investment of time can be significant.
It can. And you're affecting change. We have a Parks and Recreation Committee with the park projects that we do. They help us with those. They help kind of direct them, modify them based on what they hear people in the community tell them. So we really pay attention to all of our committees and the members on them. But we do need people to come and want to do it. We actually have some that have become council members after starting on those committees because they got the bug, right? They got a little bug in them saying, I like this, and I think I want to take it a little further.
There's a power in serving, isn't there?
It is. And it's a good feeling when you help somebody else.
Is that something we have a void of now? Well,
it's, there's a lot of acrimony situations out there, but I think at the local level we have less of that. We need to work real hard at our local level to not let the national politics get in our way.
Right.
Because again, as I said before, at the local level, these are the guys that they're the boots on the ground. They're actually getting things done. They're picking up your garbage. They're cleaning the streets. They're doing this work. These are your neighbors that you're working with. So support them and treat them well. And our community does that great.
Are you suggesting we're better together?
We certainly are.
Your forecasts for the rest of this year, projects that are going on that you are particularly proud of and you want to see move forward. What does that look like?
Well, like I said, I hope to have under construction this summer the water intake project as well as our wastewater treatment plant upgrade and expansion. So those are our top of our list. But, we have all kinds of projects. Right. We never quit in Wilkesboro. So as soon as we wrap one up, we will start on another. When I mentioned the park project, the Shelton Play Park, there's another phase of that coming. We've already got designs for it. We're just hunting money.
Right,
so we keep hunting dollars. We keep working with our committees on some of the fine tuning of these plans and projects we have, and then we go to work.
Great. How long will this water intake project take?
Yeah, so these projects are slow. The water intake project is probably an 18-month to 2-year project.
Okay.
Hope is closer to 18 months. The wastewater project is probably 2 to 3 years. It takes a little bit more for that one. So these things are slow projects. Most things take time.
Right.
It just, it just part of it. So.
But where you are now, it's going to move much faster than how long it takes to get
that's
here.
right, because you'll see construction this summer, and then once construction goes, we'll be really
You'll
working
be
hard.
moving in that
In
that vein.
We also hope to see some of these street projects coming to fruition and wrapping up soon. 421's under construction right now. It's going to be there for quite some time.
People are asking about that. What do you know? What can you say about
it's
that?
going to be a great project when it's done, and so I'm excited about it. It is ahead of schedule slightly. So it's moving right along. We've got a great contractor. Been very pleased with his work ethic and how they've treated the public, getting people through there, because people don't understand how hard it is to work in an existing road, keeping the traffic flowing while you're improving all the assets around it. It's difficult.
Why don't you talk about that for a moment? Because some people don't really know what's going on and why is this being done.
Yeah.
Talk about that.
Well, you see projects go on. You see dump trucks and track hose moving around, but you don't really see no pavement going on. You're going, what's going on? But the first thing you have to do is all the stuff underground. So they've replaced the gas lines, the water lines, the sewer lines. They've moved the phone lines, the power lines. All that has to be done, and then you actually get to start the work.
Right.
So that's what they're doing now. They've gotten most all that done now, where they're starting to look at some of the road work. We've got in the area that they're working now is a lot of rocks. So there's a lot of blasting going on that has to be done. But people have been nervous about the project. I think they'll be excited after the project is done. I've driven a couple of these streets that are similar to this super street concept, and we will get through that traffic area twice as fast, if not faster than what we did before.
Safely.
Very safely. There'll be cameras that monitor the vehicles in a way that will adjust the lights throughout the district to make sure it goes as efficiently as possible to get people through.
So that's helping the local traffic, also helping people on their way up to the mountains.
And the through traffic, yes.
Right, going up through the mountains. But in no way does it affect it doesn't keep people from getting off and going downtown.
Not at all, but it's going to be much safer for people to do that. And you can get downtown real easy. You can get off on the side streets real easy. You know, we have 35, getting close to 40,000 cars running down, going through that business district every day. And we got to make sure they're safe. Yeah. And that they can get to the businesses. And that's why the work's going on there. You know, the DOT actually originally wanted to put a bypass in, and our city council just said no, no, no. Yeah. We were very nervous of what a bypass would do to our community.
Well, it would bypass.
It would bypass us. And so I appreciate the city council's fortitude on standing up to that and saying, no, we will live with the traffic in a better pattern on our existing road structures.
And that's what's happening.
And that's it. And so it'll be good for the community, good for all those businesses out there, and future growth in our community.
So one other question. So last year was good. This year sounds like nice progress on projects that are very important, right? So is it too soon to just give a nod to some things that may be happening in 26?
Well, you know, there's always more work to come. So we got some irons in the fire. I don't know that I'm at privileged period to be able to speak on them at this point, though.
But things are happening.
Rest assured, yes, we've got future plans, and we will keep hopefully improving our community for the citizens that live here.
All right, fantastic. Well, Ken, I really appreciate you coming in and sharing with us today. We're putting you on the list to assist with our civics classes.
Yeah, that's right.
So we'll have you right in there. And I don't think that's condescending in any way whatsoever. Everybody gets busy. Education has kind of shifted a bit, but just knowing how things work and why they work the way they work, I think that can bring a little peace and help us sleep better at night.
Isn't that the truth?
Yeah.
Well, I appreciate the time being here. I've enjoyed the conversation.
Great. Thanks, Ken.
Thank you.
Thank you for spending time with us on Life in Wilkes. We value you as a viewer and appreciate when you share the show with your friends and family. Be sure to bookmark our channel and join us again on the next episode of Life in Wilkes.